What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today, I want to talk about a group. I think I've talked about them once before. And if I did, it was a while back. And there's a lot of new people to the channel. And a lot of people asking about this group. Actually, I think I got a couple people yesterday in the comments asking. And I've also seen other content creators lightly touch on the subject. And we're going to talk about the Paisas, right? The Mexican nationals, which we refer to as Paisas. And, and one thing about that word, I've seen some people act like that's a derogatory term. And in no way is that ever used as a derogatory term in prison because that's not going to be allowed, right? Now, the Paisas. Let me start with this. So, when I was going to the shoe the very first time, right? We were leaving New Folsom, and whenever you would leave, you're always on your way to the bay. It's such a long ride. You're gonna stop. You're gonna lay over and spend the night in some joint, right? I've laid over in San Quentin several times. I've laid over in Tracy several times. And then trips coming back, I've laid over in Soledad. I've laid over in Donovan. I've laid over in Chino. I think those are all the prisons that I've actually. Oh no, Wasco, and I want to say Delano too. Can't remember about that one. But so we were on our way back to. No, this was my first time. I'm on my way to the bay the first time. Actually, the three of us that were in the tank together, all three of us, it was our first time going to the shoe, right? In the bay. And so the tank, once we got to San Quentin, when you get into R&R in San Quentin, it's a bunch of chain link cages, right? Chain link fences, fencing, bunch of pretty big cages, right? Or holding areas, I should say. So when we walked in R&R, they put us in the second cage over. So there was one big cage, and then the next one, boom, they put us in, and there's a cage next to us, and there's a bunch of cages, right? So it was T, who I did a story on yesterday or the day before. It was myself, T, and a paisa by the name of Gordo, right? And as we're sitting there, the tank next to us, the first tank, starts filling up. I've told this story, but I'm gonna tell it again here for a reason. The first tank starts filling up, and apparently that was the parole tank, right? These guys were getting their dress outs and they were dressing up, in their street clothing, and they're gonna be released that day. Being that it's the 90s, there was still tobacco. We're coming out of Ad Seg on our way to the shoe, so we don't have no tobacco. These guys start pulling out cigarettes, smoking cigarettes and stuff, right? At this point in my prison term, I didn't smoke anymore. Gordo didn't smoke anymore, but T, he did everything, right? So T notices there's some paisas in there, and he tells Gordo, hey, go and ask those paisas right there for a couple cigarettes, man. Just let them know we're on our way to the shoe, and anything that they can, they're willing to share, we'd be glad to take it up there, and, we'll mention their name, this and that. So Gordo's like, all right, he walks over and he starts talking, right? And you could see the paisas that he's talking to, their eyes, they keep like glancing over and they start whispering, right? And we're just looking over like, hey, all right, whatever. Gordo comes back and he hands T, I don't remember how many cigarettes it was, but he hands him some cigarettes. And Gordo said, man, homie, these paisas right here, they're weird, eh? And we're like, what do you mean? And then he explains to us that when he introduced himself and they started conversing, and when he asked for some tobacco, that they were like, hey, are those sureños right there? And he was like, yeah, those are the camaradas. And those paisas told him, those are not our camaradas. The paisas here run with the norteños. There's no sureños here. The paisas run with the norteños. And if you go out to the yard, they're going to get you because you're in the tank with them. And Gordo was like, no, you guys got it backwards, eh? You guys got it backwards. The paisas don't run with the norteños. And he goes, and we're not going to the yard. We're going to the Pelican Bay Shoe. And they had that little back and forth. And I remember when he was telling us that, we were blown away. So let's rewind it to my very first celly in New Folsom when I first hit prison was an OG from San Pedro, right? He had been down forever. But that was in orientation. Once I left orientation, they put me in a cell. My very first celly was a paisa named Huayno, right? And, I've told that story. We were really cool until one day he asked me, hey, you do carga? Basically, like, do I slam heroin, right? And I told him, nah, I don't fuck around. I've never fucked with needles. I don't do heroin. And he's like, hey, you want to try it? I said, nah, I'm good. He's like, damn. And he said, and those of you that you're gonna remember this story, you're gonna remember this line. He told me, I love giving people their very first shot of heroin because I like to ruin people's lives the way my life got ruined. Up until that point, man, he was a cool-ass celly. When he said that, I said, wow, this vato's a fucking snake, right? And this has nothing to do with him being a paisa. That was just the dope fiend in this guy, right? But he was a cool-ass dude. I couldn't get over that about him, right? Throughout my prison term, I probably had like maybe four cellies that were paisas. In the California Department of Corrections, on the level 4s, the paisas and the raza from Southern California fall under the same umbrella. We will cell up together when it's, if there's a bunk, you're coming out of the hole, you're coming out of reception, wherever you're coming from. If there's a bunk open and it happens to be a paisa, you're going in there. So, now do we usually stay cellies? No, because the program's a little bit different, obviously. As a Southerner, you're going to be expected to do certain things. The paisas don't have to be under the same strict rules. However, when a paisa and a Southerner are living together, then the paisa is going to have to be like, hey, he's got to do his program. I get it. And so a lot of times what they'll do as soon as a Southern cell opens up, they'll, hey, you got a camarada over there. I'm going to bring somebody in. Or the Southerner already be, as soon as he gets in there, because he doesn't want. I'll give you an example too. Most of the paisas, when they use the bathroom or when they bird bath, they put up a curtain. Me, myself, I was very, very much against curtains. And so that little tiny thing could lead to in-cell tension. And I'm going to tell you why. 2 occasions when I first got to prison. 2 occasions where one, it was a paisa. He was from Mexico, and then another one, they call them paisas too, but he was from he was from South America somewhere, right? These 2 separate occasions, these dudes were with their cellies. Everything was cool in the cell. And then one was like, hey, I'm going to use the bathroom. Put up the curtain. But instead of actually taking a dump, he pulled out his knife, came around that curtain, and whacked his cellie. And I remember those 2 occasions happened pretty close to each other, right? And I used a curtain up until that point. From that second incident on, I never used a curtain in my cell ever again. And it's not something out of fear, it's out of caution. People lose their damn minds in prison. You don't know what's going on in their heads. Everything could be cool. They go and have get a phone call. Something went wrong in their phone call, and they decide, fuck this, man, I'm done with this shit. They come back in the cell, and they whack their cellie. Easiest way to do that, hey, Holmes, I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick, and they pull up the curtain. Now I got a little sidetracked right there, but that's one of the things to where after that incident, if somebody moved in my cell, I didn't care who it was. If it was another Southerner or a Paisa, I made sure to let them know, like, hey, look, Holmes, with all due respect, I don't play that curtain shit, Holmes. So, just so you know now, in case you want to move someone somewhere else over a curtain, go ahead, Holmes. But in this cell, we're not gonna do the curtain shit, just out of caution. Never had a problem with it, but that could be a point of contention. The fact that the Southerners are going to be up mandatory early in the morning. A lot of them are going to buzz down before breakfast. Buzz down and bird bath before breakfast even comes. Because then they're going to be ready for yard. Or if they have afternoon yard, that's when they're going to put in their study time. A lot of dudes who are really like living a certain type of way in there. Again, they're going to buzz down early in the morning. Bird bath early in the morning. And studying is very, very important to them. Some dudes are going to draw. But I say that because the light's going to come on. There's going to be noise in the cell. If you're living with a paisa, 9 times out of 10, at least with who I lived with, we're both up at the same time. But you would have some, just like there's some Southerners, if you let them, they'll try to sleep in. And nobody's going to say nothing to the paisa. But that Southerner, yeah, sleep in if you want to. Nowadays, things are completely different, right? And I could tell you, I remember in 96, the homies asked the legend that was in the oil right there in New Folsom about some of the certain rules, right? And asked him, hey, what's up with the one up, one down, which with the Southerners, if one of them, you buzz down, you did all your stuff, and you want to take a 15-minute power nap, as long as your cellie's up, you can take that power nap. One has to be up, and you're not going to be sleeping all day. You're not even going to unroll that mattress. You're going to sleep on the steel, right? But they asked this legend, 1996 in the oil in New Folsom, about people sleeping in, right? And everybody expected, because this is a legend, everybody expected him to be like, hey, fuck that. You got to be up. You do, woo, 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 woo. The legend's very own words were this. You know what's expected of you. If you want to sleep in, go ahead, Holmes. If that door cracks and you get whacked, when you come back from the hospital, we're whacking you too. You knew what was expected of you. And, and that's a whole nother video I could do where, you're expected to be a man and conduct yourself in a certain professional manner at all times, right? But this video, I just wanted to make sure I brought up the Paisas, because I don't know why people think, well, I get why people think, because they don't know, they haven't been to prison. And everybody that's been to prison, especially level 4 yard, knows the Paisas and Southerners house together. They'll eat together. If the Southerners back in the days were going to get into it with the Northerners, the Paisas were not going to get involved in that. They were never expected to get involved in that. If the Southerners got into it with the Woods, 99.9% of the time, the Paisas were not even, hey, we got this. Don't just be on your toes. If the Southerners got into it with the blacks, the Paisas were going to be involved. That was the only time it was pretty much all raza. Well, the Northerners and Bulldogs usually by that time they weren't even on the yard. They had their own yards, but it was all raza are getting up, even if you're a Christian, because the raza was outnumbered by hundreds, right? And and then a lot of people are gonna say that's a lie. It's not. You get to a level 4 180, the blacks outnumber everyone by hundreds, right? But luckily, everybody's been released from the shoe. You don't hear about race riots anymore. Everything you see is in-house, which for the most part, that's what it was anyways. But I just wanted to do a quick little, want to be longer than I expected. But I wanted to do an interview on the Paisas, man, and show the Paisas some love. They are not no pushovers. They're not a group that has as many skirmishes with other groups because they mind their own business. They do their time. And but they are respected. That said, that's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.
Yeah. I'm speaking truth from the cell to the streets. Did 24 years, now I'm finally free. 8 strong standing, no chains on me. Ex-con, ex-gang, but my soul found peace. Taught by the struggle, pain made me wise. I seen homies fall, seen mothers cry. Now I'm here to teach what the system denies. From the darkness I rose, Tupac in my eyes. This channel ain't clout, it's the scars I show. Life lessons in these rhymes so the young ones know. Dubs on the mic, watch the wisdom grow. If you walk through the fire, let your spirit glow.
Welcome to Vario Liquors, home of the coldest beer in the 209. Chilled to a perfect 32 degrees. From mix and go drink kits to both classic and exotic spirits, we've got something for everyone. Visit us at 1870 Countryside Drive, Turlock, California. Catch you at the Vario.